Welcome to the June 17th meeting of the Nantucket Memorial Airport Commission meeting. We are meeting entirely remotely via Zoom. Please be careful not to share your screen. It may be captured by the recording. Please direct all comments through the chair. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking and identify yourself before speaking. And the meeting's being both audio and video recorded. With that, we'll move on to the review and approve of the agenda. Are there any questions, comments with the agenda as drafted? Hearing none, we'll consider that adopted by unanimous consent. We have the draft minutes from the May 13th meeting. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll consider those adopted by unanimous consent. We have to ratify the warrants of May 21st, June 4th, and June 11th. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the warrants? Hearing none. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Any public comment for items that are not on the agenda? Do we have any members of the public? Okay, so seeing none, we'll move on to pending leases and contracts set forth on our amended Exhibit 1, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, if you want to turn your attention to Exhibit 1. The first is a lease agreement with Tradewind Aviation. This is a new lease agreement for the flat roof building. It is a 6-month term with a more formal RFP to be issued for that building in the coming late winter. We are excited to have them kind of kick it off and give us an idea of how that space can really be utilized and then move forward from there. The second is also a new lease agreement for 33 Bunker Road that was awarded to G.J. Smith. It is additional pod storage, impound. It'll increase the impound overflow as well as additional warehousing. It is an initial 5-year term with 3 5-year renewal options. The next two on the list is the Form Bar Nantucket and ACT Surf School, which are both small license agreements for their small operation to be conducted there on Norbadeer Beach. And as you know, that we own that property there. And so they do, per our rates and charges, there is that $1,500 license agreement for both of those. They are seasonal, so they only run just the summer. I think you guys are well aware of who they are. They've operated in the past, so nothing new there. The next one is a contract amendment with Robert B. Hours. That is an extension of the terms, as we were unsure whether or not we were going to be able to get this fencing project completed in time. We did ask for an extension on their contract because they were the ones who also did our South Apron expansion, but we were able to, through the smarts of McFarland Johnson, we were able to still be able to utilize them for the fence project to be able to do the construction for that. So that's why we extended their contract in case that we were not able to get to that fencing until after this fiscal year. The next one is a new contract with Pavion Corporation, formerly Signet. It is for the purchase of a new archiver. Our current archiver, which stores our video camera videos, which uses a lot of memory, currently is at 100. It currently sits at 140 terabytes of memory. And this last month, due to the high volume that we had with video recordings, it reached its max of 140 terabytes and started to shut down, which caused a loss in our video cameras, which is definitely a security issue. And so with that being said, we're going to purchase another archiver. This one's a 220 terabyte archiver as one a spillover. So when that one does get full, this one can basically be utilized to have any overflow go into that. Per TSA regulations, we are required to have video footage saved for at least 30 days, if not longer, before it starts to drop off the archivers. So with this new 220 terabyte archiver, we should never ever have to worry about running out of space and in essence losing our cameras again. A huge shout out to both Billy and Rob Holdgate for being able to work with Signet. Signet has the state contract, and we were able to amend our contract to make this new one to be able to purchase this archiver. So big shout out, hard work done with them. I can't stress that enough. The last one is also a contract amendment with McFarland Johnson. As you're aware, Weston Solutions is their sub-consultant that is handling our PFAS services. And this is for PFAS services for the phase 3 that we are required to do per Mass DEP. So with that being said, I ask for your approval of these items that I have set forth.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Does anybody have any questions on any of the contracts?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve the contracts as reviewed, Lisa's contracts as reviewed by Mr. Smith?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
DeMarks?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Moving on to item 5, Mr. Smith, if you would please review the Flying Association's special permit application and fee waiver request.
Absolutely, yeah. So as you're aware, next week we will be having the annual Nantucket Flying Association conducting their camp. We're excited for the new cadets to be able to come and utilize our airport to, one, get a good history of aviation, but 2, they also have the opportunity to get up in the air with some student pilots that are allowing their use of their aircraft. And so during this time, as you're aware, we do conduct ramp and landing fees, but I am asking for your permission to waive those fees, as I feel it's with this as being a camp that it's more geared toward an educational experience for these students. And so I would request that we waive those fees for them.
Is that something that you feel needs a vote, or we just no concerns with your waiving the fee, with the fees being waived?
I just don't have any concerns. I don't think there needs to
Okay,
be.
the commission, is there any concerns?
No.
Hearing none. I think that, thanks for letting us know.
Perfect.
We'll move on to pending matters for the South Apron Ramp Expansion Project, please.
Yeah, for the South Apron ramp expansion, there's two things in that kind of are tied to that. The first is the noise wall barrier. Premier Fence did present the lowest bid for the construction of the noise wall barrier. They were given the notice of award for acceptance, and we should hopefully have that contract for the July commission meeting for that signature there. The second thing is the airport fence at Novadear Beach. We began construction of that yesterday, and that construction will run through June 27th. Massive shout out both to Preston, to McFarland Johnson, to Mass DOT. Mass DOT promised that they would have this project fully funded by them if we could have it done before the end of the fiscal year, and we did. We were able to get that approved, and as you can see, the project's already started. So great shout out to my staff for all the hard work, for MJ, and making sure we could get this done at minimal cost to the airport. So I'm very pleased to see that. Plus, of course, it provides the added security to the airport perimeter fence, as we know it's encroaching the beach, about ready to fall in. So big wins there as it pertains to the South Apron ramp extension. The other thing too, I was going to mention farther down, but it kind of relates to this, is the ramp management plan. I am meeting tomorrow with our operations management, with some of the airport commissioning members and airport executive management. We're going to meet tomorrow to discuss the ramp management plan that we currently have put in as a temporary measure right now, and how we can better utilize the South Apron ramp when there's high winds and with aircraft being turned into the wind. So that is more to come there, but we do have that as a highlighted item as it pertains. I think it does pertain to the South Apron ramp extension as it pertains also to noise abatement. So that is on the fence as well, and more to come after that discussion. That's what I have.
Any questions regarding that project? Okay, thank you.
All right, moving on to PFAS investigation update. At this time, I would like to turn the time over to Madison Collins, our environmental coordinator, to provide us an update with PFAS.
Right. I'm going to share my screen, and this should also be in the packets that you received as well. All right, can everyone see this
Yep,
this slide deck?
you're good.
All right, awesome. So so we are starting the phase 4 scoping for remediation, and this is a flow chart that I put it together, basically explaining how this scoping is going to run. And so the top part you see in green is about sampling, which I'll explain more, and then the bottom part you see in blue is about the remediation. So to explain this out, Weston Solutions wants to do more testing to get more granular and precise measurements of where PFAS contamination and leaching is. And so there's two types of testing that they want to do. The first one is called lysimeters, and these are devices that measure PFAS levels in soil moisture through modeling and this device can tell us leaching rates or PFAS flux from the soil to the groundwater. The other type of sampling is soil sampling in 15 different locations and 15 shallow locations and 4 deep locations. And so these soil samples will tell us where PFAS contamination is extending down based off of different depths. And so both of these types of testing will inform where soil remediation is needed and at what depth. And so the expectation is that this testing will support a reduced footprint and shallower depths for soil remediation. So that's the testing part. And so when we get into the remediation options, based off of the results from the testing, we can tailor specific remediation options to specific areas and create a more targeted approach and strategy. And so on one side, we have active remediation. And so this active remediation would be for areas in the Zone 2 wellhead protection area. And so this would include areas like the Runway 15 approach and the Sun Island area. Under active remediation, we have two types of technologies. The first type of technology or process is active remediation, which is excavation and soil washing. So here we would literally remove all the soil and dig it up. We would wash it through multiple rounds of special washing with water. We'd then put the clean soil back. We would take all this water that now has PFAS in it. We'd have to concentrate all of that water down, and then that water would be then shipped off island for disposal. So that's one type of active remediation. The other type of active remediation is what's called fluorosorb tilling. And so this is basically using this organo-clay mixture that will help bind to the PFAS and freeze it where it is, so it prevents further leaching into groundwater. So with the soil washing and excavation, that one is definitely a much higher cost and will be much more destructive, whereas the fluorosorb tilling has a lower cost and will be less destructive. And when we're thinking through this, the goal is to really limit the extent that the excavation and washing will be used, just because that is such an intensive process. And going back to that testing we did that I explained in earlier, this testing is going to help us identify where that effort should be placed. And so that part is all the active remediation side. On the other side, there's monitored attenuation. And so monitored attenuation is basically when we're just letting natural processes like runoff and natural leaching run its course. And then all that PFAS in that water and in that from that soil will just run into the ocean. And so in areas that it would be best to use this strategy would be in the non-drinking water source areas. And that would, for us, include runway 6, run up, and then the Strongy lot, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and the runway 15 mid section. So yeah, that's as an overview of the phase 4 scoping. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Commissioners, any questions? I had just a couple.
Great.
So can you tell us a little bit more about the lysimeters, and how much are we going to get into? How many of them? I mean, maybe that's not laid out. Is there going to be a follow-up to this discussion for the installation of those, or what do we do? How are we deciding which of your two alternatives there we're doing?
Gotcha. I might actually pass this one off to Jim if he's on the meeting, but for some of your question, I'm able to answer that. So I know that for the lysimeters, most of the lysimeters will be about 5 feet deep, and there are 15 lysimeters that will be planned. Most of them will be planned to installed in July, but some later based off of also the additional soil samples. For your other questions, I'm going to have to defer to Jim on that one.
I think
Jim?
Oh, go ahead, Jim, if you got
I was
something to
going
add,
to
but
say, I
you
think
hit
she did a
most.
pretty good job of answering that.
I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to do it in 2 phases, as she indicated. We're going to. I think we've got 5 or 6 in our first phase that we're going to install and get those results, and then we're going to hold the others in reserve based on the additional soil sampling we want to do. But basically, what the lysimeters are is essentially it's a monitoring well that you complete in the unsaturated zone. And you put a suction on it, and you can pull in the soil moisture over time, and you get enough soil moisture accumulates over several days, and then you can run that for a sample for PFAS. So you can find the level of PFAS that's percolating through the soil, working its way down to the groundwater, and that's what we want to find out is where is that happening? Because ultimately, what we want to do here is clean up the groundwater, right? That's our risk pathway is people drinking the groundwater. So that's what we want to focus on. So we only want to treat the soil that's contributing to the groundwater contamination. We don't have to treat the soil everywhere. And that's what her main point that she was getting to is the whole hierarchy here is to do some additional sampling up front to reduce the footprint where we're going to be doing the more expensive soil remediation.
Perfect. Mr. Marks?
Yeah, just the clay. So then once they bond to the clay matter, then we just abandon them in place. Is that the thought process?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Once they bond, it's just basically just like carbon. Essentially, it works kind of the same way. The granulated activated carbon that we use to treat the water. It just is in soil. So you mix it in with the soil, it latches onto it, and it just stays there. So then it's no longer leaching the groundwater, and basically we protected the groundwater at that point.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Sort of like a sequestration
Exactly.
effort. Yeah.
Yeah. Sequesters it. Yeah.
Welcome, Mr. Buscarin. Can you hear us?
Loud and clear, 5 by 5.
Okay, thank you very much. For the minutes, please reflect that Commissioner Buscarin has joined the meeting. Thank you very much, Ms. Collins and Mr. Sukup. Does anybody else have any further questions on that? And back to you, Mr. Smith.
Sure. Just one other update with PFAS. There were 3 more homes that were hooked up onto city water since our last meeting. And so all 3 of those, the bottled water deliveries have stopped. So we don't need to worry about providing those homes with those bottled waters. As that is a mass DEP regulation. Now that they're hooked up, we're exempt from that now. So that's good to see. All right. Yeah, if no questions there, moving on to crew quarters. The certificate of occupancy inspection is scheduled for this coming Friday for the dormitories. I have scheduled tomorrow a punch list walkthrough with Pearl Construction, as well as with our OPM who will be on site. We have also scheduled a dormitory walkthrough next week with Pearl to do, in essence, kind of a handshake turnover of the building. I have invited our airport maintenance superintendent and managers to be in attendance to that, as they should be handing off the drawings design. We're going to be getting 2 hard copies of those, as well as 2 electronic copies of that, so that we can start to formulate a management plan for the housing moving forward. So we're real excited to see that this project is coming to an end. We are also currently exploring the creation of an airport property manager position that will not only just handle this property, but all airport properties and assets, and kind of leases that the airport has, ground leases with our tenants. And this person will oversee, the needs of what needs to get done, and then through kind of a work order, task order, database, be able to fulfill any work orders that might come about with these properties. And so I'm currently working on that with Preston to see what we can do to create such a position, which I think would be very beneficial as we continue to grow as an airport, not just through leases, but also through properties. And then also I am currently working on a basic lease term for the dorm living quarters for those who will be living in there. I should have my first rough draft completed by Friday and sent over to council for their review. So that's what I have for crew quarters, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions? No, moving on, please.
Perfect. All right. So the next 2 items, the terminal optimization project and the high mast lighting, of course, we have put those on hold as we are trying to navigate through the grant assurances issues that have come about federally. So at this time, I don't really have an update for both of those. All right. Any questions on that?
No, let's move on.
All righty. So moving on with finance, I know in our last commission meeting, we had touched base on the capital project requests for FY27. There were just 2 more items on there that we were waiting for better budget numbers. The first one is the ARF building rehab door replacement and second floor flooring replacement. That does say 160, but we are confident that that's going to go down to about $100,000 as we have gotten better quoting on that from the contractors. And so that's a big win there. The second one and the last one is the Bunker Road rehab. We did put a placeholder for $500,000. I do not believe that that's going to be even anywhere near or close to that. It's going to be a fraction of that cost. We do believe through our site walk with McFarland Johnson that there's a lot of silt that has built up in those drainage areas down there off Bunker Road that really need a good cleaning. And it really is, how bad are the leaching tanks? How much silt and sand has built up in them? To what extent do we need to clean those out? And if we can't, could we do some more smaller remediation along the roads for better drainage of water? So I don't think it's going to be such a high number, but I am still working with McFarland Johnson on getting a more solid number for that. So more to come there. And then the seasonal terminal tent is the last thing. I'm still awaiting better numbers from McFarland Johnson to get us what we would do. One, if we needed to reconstruct the whole tent, which I don't think is going to happen, but 2, what do we need to do to get better reinforcement of some of the beams that might need some loving and some replacement? Unfortunately, due to the grant assurances issue right now, when it comes to the airport terminal improvement grants, which are kind of on the table, or kind of off the table, I'm sorry. We are just looking at what can we do to better utilize the tent if it's going to need to continue being utilized moving forward. So that's why we have it on there for 2027. All right. Any questions with the capital projects requests?
Hearing none.
All righty. All right, the next one is targeted salary adjustments. So when I came on board, I sat down with Noah, the former airport manager, and Noah had submitted some requests for what we call PAFs, or some raises for some of my executive staff. He was able to draw comparisons to other department positions throughout Nantucket and definitely gave some solid data that shows that some of my executive staff are definitely well underpaid compared to other positions within Nantucket. And so with these PAFs that he submitted to the town didn't like them and essentially rejected them. They thought it was odd that a leaving airport manager would try to put these out. I find that I actually think that that's bogus and disagree, as Noah's the one who's worked with my staff longer than I have and knows them well better than I did when I came on. So I definitely supported Noah's decision on that. So they asked for me to basically put these back out there closer to July 1st at the turn of the fiscal year, which I did, and I'm not getting any response back from the town. And the town is saying that I need to have approval from the airport commissioning board to provide raises, which I also think is quite bogus to a degree, in the sense that me as the airport manager, I know my staff, I know the hard work that they put into, and I feel that it's if they're deserving of any raises, and of these raises that have been presented, I do believe that they are deserving of that. So I don't know if I need to come to an approval for you guys, or just that's kind of my holdup, but I wanted to bring this to the table just to at least discuss it if that's what it takes, and how we need to let the town know that I think when it comes to raises, which comes out of the airport budget, we don't need to have the town's approval for those type of items. So yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I'll happy to jump in here if you'd like, and then open it up for discussion by the commission. Past practice, for what that's worth, is that it is the manager's discretion, but that notification to the commission is appreciated.
Sure.
And similar to, what you're doing here, that, you keep us apprised of out of the ordinary or adjustments that are beyond sort of those associated with the typical contract renewals that has typically in the past followed the non-union personnel, has mirrored the union personnel as a result of the bargaining in agreements that happen there. There's nothing that says that has to happen that way. So my belief here is that and I do defer to other discussion from the commission, but that it is within your purview to adjust the salaries, and then we would essentially adjust yours, and that's the hierarchy that I believe has been followed. So with that being said, I don't have any concern with what you have presented here. But I would open up both points for discussion by the commission if anyone feels differently.
I don't feel differently. I think we've done it in the past and it's in your purview.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think there's any action here required, and I'm more concerned if we were to take action, it would set that precedent that
Understood.
you'd cut that would be needed. And should you find that you have further challenge with implementing these, then please let us know.
Yeah, that's great to know. I definitely could take that to the town and let them know that it's in our purview, and that if there is any other any pushback, I'll definitely bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Again, it is a collaborative approach with the town, so it's
Correct.
not,
Absolutely.
I don't want to, I appreciate that they're
Absolutely.
also, we're on the same team, and we're, everyone's trying to be fiscally responsible on both sides. So I don't want to see this as adversarial whatsoever. Everyone's just
Agreed.
checking boxes and making sure I think things are done appropriately.
Completely agreed. And also for the record, I mean, in the last, these 3 months that I've been here, I can't stress how amazing of a team I really have. The hard work and dedication that they do put in, and the hours that they put into their jobs. They do take serious pride in what they do, and I'm grateful for the team that I have, and even the stuff that we're presenting today, the hard work and busting their rears to get what I'm presenting to you today, it does not go unnoticed. And so I'm grateful, and I do feel that they are deserving of these raises for them. So that's just for the record.
Appreciate that.
Perfect. You bet. All right, moving on. The next 4 items that I have on the agenda, the first one is 06172503 is to ratify a Mass DOT grant award. The Massachusetts Department of Transportation is providing a grant in the sum of $229,503.20 for a new aircraft tug, which is great news and very welcoming for the airport. I don't think I have to ask for a motion for anything here, do I? Just presenting.
I think what would be good is just to make sure, since it is on the agenda to be ratified, why don't you go through all 4 of them, and then we could do a single motion and vote just to make sure that it's covered.
Sure. Okay, fair enough. All right, so next one is 06172504 is the Mass DOT grant award. It's additional funding given to us by Mass DOT for the taxiway golf phase 3 environmental monitoring in the sum of $14,230. The next one is a Mass DOT grant award for airport drainage in the sum of $7,886.39. And the last one is another Massachusetts DOT grant award for the runway 624 centerline rehab design and permitting in the sum of $3,870. And I do ask for those to be ratified. I'm very pleased to see the Mass DOT is providing us the much needed assistance for our airport to keep in compliance.
Are there any questions regarding the 4 MassDOT awards? If not, is there a motion to ratify awards -03, 04, 05, and 06?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you, Mr. Smith. That moves us on to the manager's report.
Perfect. So moving on to manager's report for my project updates as they pertain to the AIP projects. We're going to touch base on the master plan. I am currently meeting with our FAA planner regarding the final public meeting that we have tentatively scheduled for August 5th. So please put that on your calendars. And then also we're just kind of trying to navigate with these potential grant assurances and how they could impact the airport, whether it's this year or for the next few years. Just how do we fine tune that master plan to make sure that we're providing the most updated information to the public. So we are working on that right now. But yes, please keep that August 5th date for the last public meeting for our master plan. The next one is continued environmental monitoring. This last week, both Madison and I met with Brett Trowbridge of VHB, who handles our environmental monitoring. He was able to take us, actually Preston was able to take us all out on a drive around the airport property to just basically learn about the different type of flora that we have on the airport and what's being monitored. It was extremely helpful for me. I also think for Madison as well. And just to see the hard work that they put in with our environmental monitoring. And we are continuing that, as you're well aware. So just nice job with Brett from VHB. And I'm grateful to get a better understanding of just what we're doing mitigation wise on the airport. And as we continue that monitoring. The next thing is a PFAS mitigation litigation settlement. I will be meeting on Monday, finally, with our counsel, Napoli Shkolnik, to discuss any updates. I don't know how much in the news you've been kind of following along, but just within the last month, the state of New Jersey received a $400 million settlement award in PFAS assistance. This is the first from that settlement of any entity or state to finally receive monies. So that is a great first step to finally see this is now happening and rolling out. So hopefully I'll have some better news next week in that conversation, and definitely more to come. The runway 624 centerline project is completed. And again, we have a meeting with the select board to discuss more when it comes to the grant assurances scheduled for July 10th. So a little bit more to come with the outcome there. But that project is completed and it looks great. Everything looked good for the FAA inspection. I'll touch on that a little bit later. The next thing is we are going to be conducting a public meeting scheduled, 2 public meetings scheduled next Tuesday at both 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. They will be hybrid. They have been posted publicly for the airport's DBE and ACDBE programs. To lay that out, DBE stands for Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, and ACDBE is Airport Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprises. These are 2 enterprises that are required to receive federal funding, and our goals to allow disadvantaged business enterprises the opportunity to be able to be a part of these federal projects. And every 3 years, we must establish a goal for these, and we are to have a public meeting every 3 years to inform the general public of future projects that they could be able to bid on and be a part of. And so those meetings will be held next week on Tuesday again, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., both hybrid, so in person or virtually. Feel free to attend. All right, for my non-AIP projects, as I'd already touched a little bit on it, the fence relocation has already begun and will be running through June 27th and will be completed before the end of the fiscal year, fully paid by Mass DOT. This last week, I was able to get in touch with and meet with Beta Technologies. Both Madison and I were in regard to the electric aircraft charging station. A little bit about them. Their first successful CTOL flight, or conventional takeoff and landing electric aircraft, took flight last week or about 10 days ago, and it flew somewhere in New York City for 2 points of 2 airports in the New York City area. It was very successful, and so now they are finally able to mobilize and start to really look out at getting us our charging station that we have on the books here at the airport. I'm currently working with them on that, and hopefully see a charging station here airside within the next year. So pleased to see there's now progress with that lease and with Beta Technologies. The next thing is the ARF transition plan. Our new ARF truck has been added to our ACM and is now currently active and in use as our primary truck. So nice job to Preston and our operations team in getting that ARF vehicle up and running prior to our inspection. And we're good to go there. So things are rocking and rolling. And the last thing is any tenant alteration applications. We did receive one from Jeff Smith. There appears to be some good ponding in his parking area that he's currently leasing, and he has asked to apply some more millings into that area for better drainage to try to diminish that ponding that's happening when the stormwater occurs. So I look forward to approving that to help him out there. I think that's a smart move, just to do some good grading there and make sure that he's getting good runoff, so that because any cars and any impounded cars are not just sitting in a feet of water. All right, that's all that I have for project updates. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Smith? No, let's move on, please.
Perfect. So RFB bid status, of course, as I've already mentioned, 33 Bunker Road lease was awarded to GJ Smith earlier in our meeting. Pleased to see that. IT services, the initial RFP that we had put out was rejected by the airport through Brian Turbot, and he requested then a new RFP be issued, which was on June 9th, and that is running through June 30th. So more to come with our IT services RFP. That's the only 2 that I have right now. So any questions with that? All right, if none there, then we will move on to the operations update. As I had already mentioned before, we have a ramp management plan scheduled for tomorrow with some airport commissioning members, ops management, and airport management to discuss our ramp management plan. Currently, we have put in place a plan for certain aircraft that need to be nose into the wind to have them towed away from their parking spaces and angled into the wind on the taxiways for them to start up their aircraft to reduce that noise abatement. Airport fuel, we have kept 100 low lead and avgas in line with our region and fuel pricing, and we are continuing to monitor that throughout the summer. Airline service, JetBlue is now operating 6 daily flights, Delta continues to operate 3 daily flights, and American Airlines begins service this Thursday, with United Airlines starting service next week on the 26th. And come next Thursday, all of our legacy air carriers will be full operational at Nantucket. So definitely season is upon us. As you can see, our GA aircraft are definitely increasing as well. No updates with any training at the moment. Well, I do have one. We did get all of our staff fully trained in wildlife hazard management, which is a great win for us. But besides that, any other training, we're up to date. Big shout out to our operations staff, to Preston as well, with our FAA inspection. We just had our inspection conducted this last month during the week of Memorial Day. It was completed with very minimal items found by our inspector. And of those minimal items, all of those items have now officially been resolved and sent to the FAA for dismissal. So great job keeping our compliance. I've got a great staff and great team here, and big shout out to them. It's just nice to know that they take pride in the airport, and that our inspector sees that and found very few issues, if any, for our airport. So nice job, guys. Also, our TSA inspection was completed. The on-site portion was done with no issues found. Currently, our TSA inspector is still reviewing our data files and our documents. That kind of always comes in after the physical inspection. So we are awaiting their comments on anything that they find. We don't anticipate any, and we should hopefully have those back per Rob Holgate within the next week or two. We do have, starting this coming month on July 16th, new passenger inspections are required for certain aircraft that are considered what we call a 12.5 aircraft. So any aircraft that are 12,500 pounds, I think it's max takeoff weight MTOW, are now required to have a TSA, an approved TSA inspection standard. Basically, they are now required to conduct certain small inspections of handbags, personal bags, backpacks that go onto an airport starting July 16th. This is across the whole country. And right now we have one air carrier who is Slate Aviation that we are working with on those logistics. We met with them yesterday with their security team to get a better understanding of what their practices are going to be and how we're going to be able to assist them to get that standard approved by the TSA. So more to come there, but those are definitely changes that are coming down the line at all airports. We're not immune to that. So, and then also, oh, that's it. That's all that I have. So any questions as it pertains to the operations update?
Commissioners, any questions?
Perfect.
I had a couple maybe that might tie to that follow-up, but I'll do them under commissioners' comments.
Okay.
Commissioners, oh, why don't you keep going, the statistics?
Sure. Yeah. Statistics. Operations were up 4% for April and up 5% year to date. Southwest ramp operations, the operations were flat for April 2025 and year to date. Employments were down 2% for the month of April, but are still up 10% year to date. Cape Airs Boston is up 6%. EWB is down 22%, but Hyannis and Martha's Vineyard are both up at 22%. Fuel Jet A sales are up 6.3% year to date. They're also up 26.5% over the 3-month average and up 29.7% for the previous month. Same with 100 low lead, it's up 7.3% year to date. It is down 4% over the 4 previous months, but still up 3.5% for this most recent month. Air freight is up 12% for April and is down 12% year to date. Cape Air Freight had no change. USPS was up 52%, FedEx was up 31%, and UPS is down. There was only one noise complaint for the month of April that was received from a resident in Plymouth, Massachusetts, that doesn't even live on the island, regarding a certain flight path over their house. And the complainant had requested no follow-up from the airport whatsoever. So very interesting to see that and hear from that, but well. And I don't believe there were any APU issues for the month of April. That's what I have for statistics.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding the manager's report? Hearing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments, either on the manager's report or any other items, future agenda items. Mr. Marks. You're muted, Mr. Marks.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Earlier you mentioned something about hiring a person to manage the building over there and stuff. And I think maybe initially, I mean, I don't know what the real, to find a whole person to do that, it might be easier. There's tons of people on the island that do that, depending upon what the need is, that may be able to do that for a little bit less money than putting a whole nother person on the payroll when there's people that go around and do all that stuff already. That was all I want to say.
Without getting into a large discussion on that, something that I had discussed with the previous manager and also have discussed with Mr. Smith briefly would be whether the position would actually be related to all properties. I actually just I had sent a draft for consideration to Mr. Smith, or a starting point, that it would be in my thinking anyway, and this would be developed, would be sort of an overall property manager and property and tenant relation manager, so that it would sort of deal with all of your leases and, with real property, not necessarily all contracts, to help the current staff be able to have then the person, so that same person, now that we have additional real property that has some management aspects, that they might not be, a superintendent so much, that actually does the work, so much as the point of contact for and noticing what needs to be done to then either bring in, some kind of a licensed subcontractor and or create work orders for our staff, just a general position. And the discussion I had with the previous managers is more common as airports have greater revenue recognized from non-aeronautical uses and aeronautical uses as well, for say tenants and whatnot, hangars and whatnot, that also might need some upkeep. So it's having a dedicated position, sort of like in the larger airports, that if you have business parks, that's how it's described to me, that's the person that has that role and responsibility within, sort of I think a middle management level of the airport. So I think there's more to come on that, but I think it's worth exploring. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but that I know you're alluding to, Mr. Mark. I think alluding to Mr. Mark, sort of a sub third party to manage, or superintendent, if you will, for that one dorm, perhaps. I don't think that's what we would have in mind, but I think we're all open to ideas and suggestions for how that might work. And it's ultimately, I think, up to Mr. Smith, but I think that, in consultation with the commission for creating a new position and us having to approve a budget that, that would cover that position. If that makes sense to all, or any other input. So more to come on that, Mr. Smith. Does that
Correct.
seem to make sense, Mr. Marks, just to your comment?
Yeah, I see kind of where you're headed with it. It does make some sense, with especially with like lease, all the other, if they're going to actually take care of dealing with all the leases that we have for our tenants as well. I think
Be
there's a lot.
compliance inspections of,
Yep.
it would be all those things that sort of maybe we don't have the bandwidth right now to do, and we don't want to overburden, I think, staff that we have as we keep expanding these holdings and leases, and the recent acquisition and the dorm coming online, I think both add to what could otherwise become increasingly burdensome on existing staff. So and I think we might be better served for long term being able to, I always believe in preventive maintenance, is the best medicine. So I think to follow that kind of thinking, it might help. So that was what he mentioned. Did we have anything else on any other commissioners' comments? I had a couple, just I think it's a kind of a combination of a follow-up to some of the manager's report items. Mr. Smith, great job to you and your team on the Part 139. Thank you. It's recognized. I believe there's typically a response letter at some point to the FAA that details, how each item was addressed. Whenever that is prepared, if you could distribute that to the commission so that we're all aware of, again, the summary version of what came up and how you all address that. I think it's good for us to be informed of that. And so I'd appreciate that as just when you get to that. Um, you mentioned the ramp management plan. Look forward to that discussion. One of the items being, trying, when you say direction they're parked, again, long-term policy of the airport has been that the jet engines are not directed westerly towards the road. Some of these newer aircraft require the wind to be a certain direction. And so where do we find a balance from an operation perspective is I think what we got to try to work on for both policy and then implementation that, both protects the public and provides what the aircraft requirements are. So trying to work through that, I think is what we're trying to do. But the other aspect is the runtime of the aircraft on the ramp and how we manage that. There was, I think, a lot of commitment that was made with respect to the ramp expansion. And there was a particular event that I think highlighted a couple of Sundays ago where you had a G8, a brand new, largest private aircraft in the world, essentially, run for over 2 hours on the brand new ramp. And I think that's a real problem. And it goes against, I believe, commitments that have been made. So how do we manage that? I know we're working towards the wall, but that I think is excessive and we have to figure out how to manage those type of situations in face of a 15-minute APU run policy. I noticed, and again, some of this might be kind of small. I would have brought up to you typically, but since we're in the meeting, commissioners' comments, there's some really large trucks parked in the box trucks in the parking lot, and I'm just wondering, do they pay four spaces that they're parked in, or are they getting, you can handle it. You don't have to respond to me, but it just raises a question in my
Right.
mind to see rather large trucks taking up a whole bunch of spaces. And I don't know how, if they're paying for all the spaces, I don't take, but that's a utilization issue. And so I just would bring that to your attention.
Right, yeah.
And then thank you for getting the flat roof building contract in place. We're going to be recognize some revenue there. I think there's an additional benefit to be recognized by being able to remove or repurpose the tents that are currently in the FBO parking lot. So I'm just wondering what you might be thinking there. I think that is some past practice and how that area gets extremely congested in July and August. Is that modified pickup drop off? Is it their tent or does it remain tented and some, for the weather? So again, not something you have to necessarily respond to me, but I think that if we could jump on a plan as they vacate that area for how we're going to best utilize that for our FBO operations, I think it's prime real estate and customer service as well as working on safety and congestion of that area. So I just wanted to mention that. I suspect you're already on it, but that was my thoughts on as I kind of keep an eye, look and observe things.
Great. Thank you,
That
guys.
was all I had. Thank you.
You.
With that, any other commissioner comment? Is there any public comment? No comments from the public. With that, I would entertain a motion to enter into executive session per general law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, to review the executive session minutes enumerated on the agenda for review and possible release. Clause 3, discuss strategy with respect to pursuing legal claims against the manufacturer of PFAS and other potential sources. It says Clause 3, discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation when the chair has determined open meeting may not. And then Clause 3, discuss strategy with respect to potential litigation regarding Turo, where the chair has all of which where the chair has determined an open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the airport commission not to return to open session. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Planzer, how do you vote?
aye.
Mr. Buscarin?
Aye.
Mr. Marks?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And the one, well, I guess we already took that vote, so I won't add anything else. Thank you all for attending, and we'll now head into executive session.